This is Blessed Radio. It's Tuesday evening and it's 6 p.m. UK time. This is the Spiritual Discussion Program. I'm Saad in Southeast London. And with me, as usual, is Gregory. Gregory, how are you? And how is the weather where you are?
One is fine, and it is cool and sunny.
Cool and sunny. Okay, here in London it is overcast and let's say cool as well. I can say cool and half sort of warmish cool, if I can say such a way. So yes, welcome listeners to this spiritual discussion program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Abdrushi. And every week we have a new topic for discussion. The topic tonight is be flexible or uncompromising. Be flexible or uncompromising. You are welcome to join us with any questions or comments. You can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you there's one other way you can contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is blessradio1, that's the number 1.com. And there you can find on the homepage, if you scroll down, a box called Bless Chat. You can type in any comments or questions in that chat box. I'm going to begin with, what is the Grail Message? The Grail Message, in the light of truth, by Abdrushi, is a spiritual knowledge of life. It offers an explanation of the world, a picture of creation on the basis of natural laws. Its lectures contain valuable basic elements as a help in life. For through the knowledge mediated, the reader is again brought closer to life and led back to God. The Grail Message deals with important fundamental questions of life by explaining in a clear and logical way the automatic working of the laws of nature, the whole weaving of creation, allowing every process to be recognized and thereby the purpose of our whole life. It is directed at the individual and speaks to the innate experiences of the human being, their strengths and weaknesses. Thus, every reader has the opportunity to discover through the intuitive perception if what is stated is the truth. Combining with matter-of-fact reasoning, a complete world picture arises, where there is no separation between the visible world and the great world beyond the five senses. No any separation between scientific and religious striving for knowledge. I'd like to give you a couple of quotes from the author of the Grail Message, Abdrushi. The hearer and reader of my lectures should always work within himself, keenly probing and building bridges from one lecture to the other, as well as out into the great and small world happenings. Only then will he be able to understand the Grail Message and find that it gradually shapes itself into one complete whole without leaving any gaps. Again and again, in all the happenings, the reader will come back to the basic features. He can explain everything without having to change even one single sentence. The word of the Grail Message lives, so that it permits only those people who really carry the honest desire in their souls to find abundantly. All else is automatically rejected by it. For the arrogant and those who seek superficially, the message will remain the book with 7 seals. And I'd like to give you one more quote from the author. I wish to fill the gaps which have so far always remained unanswered in the souls of men, and which never leave any serious thinker in peace, if he earnestly seeks for the truth. So, dear listeners, just to remind you, the topic for our discussion tonight is be flexible or uncompromising. Be flexible or uncompromising. You are welcome to join us with any questions or comments by contacting us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's just one other way you can also contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is blessradio1, that's the number 1.com. There, if you scroll down the homepage, you will see a box called Bless Chat. You can type in any questions or comments there. Gregory, as you know, I like to look at the words in the topic in the dictionary and see, what meaning they give us there. So the first word or keyword is flexible. Now, I've got 3 definitions actually there for flexible. The first one, it says capable of bending easily without breaking. Yes, capable of bending easily without breaking. Gregory, how good is this definition for our discussion?
Well, thanks. Such a definition is basically referring to materials, unless, however, it's used as a figure of speech to refer to human personalities. But that definition is basically for materials, lifeless materials.
Yes, that's how I saw it as well. Thank you for that. In fact, this time round, I decided to look up some synonyms for these definitions. So it came up with that particular definition. It came up with pliable, supple, easily bent, bendable, pliant. Actually, they seem to be repeating themselves. Malleable, moldable. So these are all, you can say, as you say, how can I put it? They are all concerning physical materials. And you can say, so not really human, or let's say not, unless it's a figure of speech, as you mentioned. So, and I think in our discussions, we are more, which are meant to be spiritual, we are thinking about human beings. So I will say, let's move on to the next meaning. And there, for the meaning of flexible, second definition in the dictionary says able to be easily modified or respond to altered circumstances. Gregory, what do you say about this one?
One is very reluctant to take these words for what they may imply. For that which appertains to human personalities, has to dwell on one's intuition. Therefore, these are just expressions. One has to view these things intuitively to apply them to human personalities. So the one you just read out will be okay as long as it's viewed intuitively.
Thank you for that. Thank you. And again, Gregory, I looked up the synonyms with that definition, and it came up with adaptable, adjustable, open-ended, open to change, accommodating. So what I see there, Gregory, it can be used for human and non or lifeless, as you mentioned earlier, objects or materials. So it seems, in both ways. Again, it's, as you'll always discover, it's always the context that matters. So I think we'll just carry on. The third meaning for flexible, it says, ready and able to change so as to adapt to different circumstances. Well, that sounds like the same one, actually. So I will ignore that one. So let's move on. I think we should move on from that one. Okay, then I'm looking, Gregory, at the other word. So the topic for tonight is be flexible or uncompromising. So uncompromising, in the dictionary, it says two definitions: showing an unwillingness to make concessions to others, especially by changing one's ways or opinions. What do you say on this one, Gregory?
Again, the same problem arises: unwillingness, uncompromising. One may use it, but again, there must be a framework. As with all that is discussed in a language, there must be a framework. That framework has not been discussed, and that has always been the challenge.
Right. Maybe I have to take that for future shows, to start with the framework before the definition, so that we have that as a starting point. Okay. So as you said, there's a need to be more focus on the framework there. So let me continue. There was a second meaning for uncompromising. It said harsh or relentless. So how is that meaning, Gregory?
These are all the possible descriptions, but they do not hit on the salient point.
Right. Okay, let me go with the synonym and see if that helps in any way. So this is a synonym for uncompromising. And I've got there inflexible, unbending, unyielding, unshakable, unwavering, resolute. What do you say about these synonyms for uncompromising, Gregory?
That which is unwavering is nearest to it.
Right. Okay, that's good. Now, I decided, I know this might be a bit controversial, but I thought, let me just see what it is. We have Google as a search engine.
Sorry, there's so much noise in the background coming.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I don't know where that is coming from. Okay, Gregory, I'll continue because I don't know what is happening, where it's coming from. Maybe I'm just removing something. Let me just keep that still now. Okay, so Gregory, I decided this time to check some things on Google, or even Bing, which is another search engine. And I thought, let me try what AI says, and if there's anything there which we can use or not. Let me just have a look at it. So I searched for be flexible or uncompromising, and it came up with, this is in Bing now. It says being flexible and uncompromising are two contrasting approaches to handling situations. With flexibility, flexibility refers to the ability to adapt, change, or adjust based on circumstances, or new information, or other people's needs. And there are certain characteristics that are associated with that. It says willingness to consider alternative viewpoints, open-mindedness, readiness to compromise, there you say, when necessary, ability to handle unexpected changes. Example they give, a flexible person might adjust their plans if a friend needs help, even if it means changing their own schedule. So this is to do with flexibility. Gregory, is that, let's say, better than the definitions we've had earlier in terms of giving us, we always need context, as you said. So does it give a better context there or example? I'm not quite sure if there's a context there, but it's better maybe an example.
It's a more refined scenario that it has discussed.
Right.
The context which one is referring to is not there.
The context is not there. Okay. Let's maybe learn the lesson from what you said already and start with the context and just revisit these concept of being flexible and uncompromising. So, Gregory, the context, how I see it, is our life. But I know that's very big, how can I say, a big word, and it can mean so much. So can you help us with this context that you are sort of want to apply here?
The subject of language has always been partisan. People speak different languages and therefore they have different contexts. And some say what they do not mean. Some say what they mean. And therefore, on many scenarios, many just do whatever they like. What the context which is mentioned here is that framework of life itself, that framework through which the human personality even came into existence. So it's not that we have words chosen arbitrarily to represent what many wish to convey. If these words, their meaning, their intuitive meaning, do not swing unconditionally, uncompromisingly in that framework of the laws of nature, of creation, then they are of no benefit. They are of no benefit here in the world of matter or outside the world of matter. Therefore, this framework of the laws of nature, of creation, must always come first. Therein one may find that which flexibility means, or compromising, or uncompromising. Only from that framework can one get that which is right, which resonates with the laws of creation, such that one can proceed in his or her lively everyday life without, at the same time, binding oneself to that which is completely unnecessary.
Thanks very much, Gregory, for what you have just said about the context, of life, which is really considering or taking into consideration the laws of nature or creation. And what I see, I understood from what you said there, every person has their own way of looking at a situation. One person may think, oh, this is like even impossible situation. Another one will look at it as a challenge to overcome, or another one might be even in quotes defeatist, and just say don't even try. So and then you could say each person, that's how they see it, and they can't all be right, because if everybody's in the similar situation, then it's just like an opinion. You're thinking this way, another person thinking that way, and doesn't mean it's an impossible situation. That person thinks it's impossible, that's what they think. Another person thinks it's a challenge and I can overcome a challenge, although they might be trying to do something that is actually in reality even an impossible challenge to fulfill. They just want to fulfill it, whatever it is, and others, wherever they stand. So that's why I understand you about this context. What is this context? Is it your opinion, another opinion, or in what you are saying or what you're referring to, laws of nature, which you can all say sound already something universal rather than an opinion. So, I think that really helps. As you said, we need this context to really assess this, what is flexibility, or being flexible, or being uncompromising. As they say, Gregory, one man's food is another man's poison. I know this is a different way of talking, but saying some different, sounds out of context, this phrase, but it's like that. Somebody will think it's a poison, and another may think it's actually very good food. So, and it's the same food. So you start wondering, what exactly is this, the reality here? Okay, so Gregory, we're coming up with more questions and answers, so it seems right now, but hopefully as we go further, things will become clearer. Now, Gregory, you've pointed out the context, or brought in this context now, of the laws of nature. As you say, this is how we came into being, through nature. This world came into being through nature. So it looks like we have to look at nature then to see this situation. Okay, so Gregory, let's go back to these definitions or scenarios of flexibility and being uncompromising. Let me just, I did read the flexibility already, but I'm just going to read it again, and maybe something different will come through that. So this was from Bing, the search engine. Flexibility. Flexibility refers to the ability to adapt, change, or adjust based on circumstances, new information, or other people's needs. Okay. And then they say there are certain characteristics that you have to consider there, which is a willingness to consider alternate viewpoint, open-mindedness, readiness to compromise when necessary, ability to handle unexpected changes. There's so many there. I'm just, yeah, let's I'm trying to think if I should go one by one. So Gregory, can we look at this, what I've just read out as a scenario or definition of flexibility in the context of the laws of nature? Let me try to see if we can go one by one. Willingness to consider alternative viewpoints. Or before I do that, flexibility refers to the ability to adapt, change, adjust based on circumstances and new information or other people's needs. So, Gregory, if we look at those words of definition of flexibility in terms of the laws of nature, how can we look at that? In that context.
When you read it out, you said in terms of the needs of others. Right. So that already gives you the picture that it is the needs or opinion or activities of others that is being considered, not the overall picture of one for all and all for one. So what you yourself just read out is one-sided. And whatever is one-sided is of no benefit to the whole.
Right. Thank you for that. You're bringing out these things much better now, clearly now. Or we can see the picture more clearly, I'd say, when you bring it in this way. So that's good now. So yes, it just goes back to what I was saying. One man's food is another man's poison, and one man's opinion is different from another man's opinion or woman's opinion. So, of course, and it doesn't mean your opinion is actually fact or right. It's just an opinion. So, just how you see something, and then that doesn't mean it's all for one or one for all, like you have said there, Gregory. So this is, in a way, that's the context that we have to consider when we look at the situation. Like I gave earlier on, I was saying, yes, somebody might think something as a challenge, another one think is an impossible thing, and it's just an opinion only, not necessarily the reality. Okay, let's continue then. Let us look at uncompromising, just to see what it tells us as. What it says. Again, this is from Bing, the search engine. It says, being uncompromising means sticking firmly to one's principles, values, or goals without making concessions. And the characteristic of those is that is determination to maintain integrity, refusal to yield to unimportant matters, strong adherence to personal beliefs, may be seen as stubborn or rigid. And they give an example of that. An uncompromising advocate for environmental protection might refuse to work with companies that harm the environment, even if it means fewer job opportunities. So, Gregory, uncompromising seems to be about values and sticking to, let's say, your values and principles or goals even, and not making concession. So now immediately when I see that, it sounds that you can't live in such a way. So, Gregory, how can we look at that in the context of the laws of nature? Is nature uncompromising, or is that how we can work with nature like this? It seems a bit hard to grasp this.
If the goals that you yourself read out, if those goals resonate with the laws of nature, through which creation came into existence, through which the human spirit came into existence, which laws are to enable man to progress from the state of unconsciousness to the states of consciousness and subsequently self-consciousness. If these are the goals, then one cannot annul these goals, because they stand. They are a reality. They are factual. And these goals are meant for all human personalities here on earth or who live hereafter. So these goals cannot be questionable because they form the foundation framework upon which all can be built. So if the personal goals are towards these laws of nature, of creation, then you cannot compromise on these laws. Why? Do you now ditch the laws of creation through which you came into existence? A simple example will be that to be able to continue to live, there is the need for the body to take in nutrients. There is need for the body to breathe in and breathe out. Does the human personality compromise on that and say, no, I have a compromise, I will not breathe, I will not eat for the next 10 years? When it knows that only through this food and water that it was able to build up, and that this physical body that it has to be used here on earth. So these things are not compromisable, for they form the framework of well-being.
Thanks.
Therefore, unless things are viewed intuitively from that perspective, it is useless to talk about compromising or not compromising, since these laws of nature are ubiquitous. These laws have always been, even before the human personality came into existence.
Thanks a lot, Gregory, for this picture that you're painting there. Really giving clarification about, the goals, the values, and principles, which, and seeing it within the example of how nature laws work, which are very easy to observe if you look, properly. So yes. So we're going to continue this discussion further on the topic of be flexible or uncompromising in a moment. I just want to let the listeners know you're listening to Bless Radio. And this is the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Uprushing. And if you wish to know more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. And you're listening to, the topic we're having for discussion tonight is be flexible or uncompromising. Be flexible or uncompromising. You are welcome to join us with any questions or comments by contacting us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's just one other way you can contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is Bless Radio 1, that's the number one, .com. Bless Radio 1, the number one, .com. There, if you scroll down, you'll see a box called Bless Chat. You can type in any questions or comments there. And as I've already mentioned, we are broadcasting on Bless Radio 1, the number one.com. You can also listen to us on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box. Bless Radio 1, again, the number one there, space live stream. That's all, the live show, which is on Tuesday evenings, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. You can also listen to the recording of this show the next day, also on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box. Bless Radio 1, the number one again there, space, Grail Message, space, the topic of the show, which tonight is Be Flexible or Uncompromising. And there's one other way you can listen to us, which is going to this website called Zeno, ZENO.FM / Bless Radio 1. That's again the number one there. Now, Gregory, there was a conclusion in the Bing search that I did for Be Flexible or Uncompromising, and they come up with this conclusion. Ultimately, the choice between flexibility and being uncompromising depends on the context. Well, I think you said that there, Gregory. Individual preferences, well, I'm not quite sure that's what we was talking about, and the specific situation. Both approaches have their merits, and finding a balance can lead to an effective decision making. So let me repeat that, Gregory. This is from the Bing search about being flexible or uncompromising, their conclusion. Ultimately, the choice between flexibility and being uncompromising depends on the context, individual preferences, and specific situation. Both approaches have their merits, and finding a balance can lead to effective decision making. Yes, what do you say on this conclusion, if I can say that way?
What you read out is a jumble of what many or some have concluded. Flexible, uncompromising. Flexible on what? Uncompromising on what? They never mentioned. So how can one use such expression when the noun, the scenario, which one has to deal with in being flexible or being uncompromising, is completely left out. Therefore, such expressions, they may sound profound, but are completely empty because the precise scenario which they should have referred to is lacking.
Thanks so very much, Gregory, for pointing this out. It really, yet again, the context is lacking. Or, as you say, what are they talking about? Flexibility about what? On what? And uncompromising on what? And that is completely missing, as you say. So there's no way you can even talk about it when you don't know like you have only, let's say, half the picture or less than half a picture. So it's yeah, it shows how, I don't know, careful or yeah, you have to look at the situation or look at the, when you're talking about this matter. Okay. Gregory, you've mentioned the laws of nature a few times now, and I'm thinking, and you already said that these are uncompromisable, I think, some word like this you used, because that's, it's through that is what they are, like laws, inflexible laws, if I can put that word there, or universal laws, maybe say it that way, they apply everywhere all the time. And which is the context, as you've said, Gregory, that we are looking at flexibility and being uncompromising, being flexible and being uncompromising. So, Gregory, I think we should say, what are these laws? I know we mentioned them sort of every other program, but I think it's necessary to say it here to really bring out the context, So please, can you tell us about these laws of nature, laws of creation, we even say it in our shows in the past as well. So, and through these laws, you have said this is how we come into being. So, can I ask, before you go into those laws, are these laws sort of somehow scientific, allying with scientific laws or discovery by science as well? Because it's nature, and you think of science and nature sort of, science seems to learn from nature and so on. So first, can you just, before you go into what the laws of nature are, is there some similarity between scientific sort of research and understanding about natural laws?
Ever before the so-called science came into existence, the laws of nature have always been there. Laws of creation have always been there. In fact, they form the bedrock, the framework of all that exists. Therefore, one cannot in any way compare them. For science, so-called, only observe the workings of nature. It categorizes them as far as its knowledge is able to, and tries to interpret these workings, which workings it has now interpreted as so-called the laws of science. Therefore, the laws of science are only human representation of their ability to grasp the laws of nature. These are two different things. Science only observes the effects, the after effects of the inner workings of the cause. It has not the slightest idea, because its representation is only based on external observation. So one may not categorize the laws of science and compare it at all on any basis with the laws of nature or the laws of creation. One thing can easily be observable, that creation itself, or nature, is always in motion. That is undeniable. For what we refer to as vibration is only motion. What we refer to as changes in nature, these only are representations of motion. Whether it is the growth and the coming to fruition, this again is motion. This motion, which has always been there, which affects the human policies, the human deeds, all that is perceptible to the senses of the human personality, which senses are of the senses of the body, which body is an instrument. These laws of motion also apply to the human thoughts. The sciences haven't gone there yet. These laws also apply to the human intuition. These laws, even before the human personality came into existence, have always been there. So these laws of nature or laws of creation, they are ubiquitous. They are always there. They are eternal. But they are the laws of motion, because creation itself, nature itself is in motion. This is undeniable. Therefore, it is a fact that creation, nature, is in motion and is a fact. It is always good to start from the facts and make progress from there. These laws of motion can easily be observed by anybody, not only through his or her deeds, but also through his or her thoughts, and also through one's intuition. All motion, whatever it is, whatever the complexity is, can be reducible to two basic types. All motion. That motion in which the end of the motion flows back to the beginning, that is one type. And the other type is that in which the end of the motion does not flow back to the beginning. Those are the two basic types. It is these basic types that form the framework upon which all that exists in creation are built. That motion in which the end flows back to the beginning, be it in deeds, be it in all that appertains to what is observable or not observable in nature, not observable because our senses are not fine enough to perceive these things. That particular motion in which the end flows back to the beginning One may refer to that as a reciprocal activity. That is a fact. That same motion has different categories or different branches. One can also say that because the end flows back to the beginning, that only gives the strongest impression that there is more of an attraction. That is why the end flowed back to the beginning. Else, the end wouldn't have flowed back to the beginning. That motion, or that different, or that category, can also be called the law of attraction, of homogeneity. That is why it flowed back to the beginning. Other expressions can be used. Resonance. That is why it flowed back to the beginning. So from one pattern, from one which is basic, one can already perceive two hands, that of reciprocal activity and that of the attraction of homogeneity. That is why you find all that exists vibrates. All that has to grow has to exchange vibrations or exchange energy, whatever one cares to call it. There is the other type in which the end does not flow back to the beginning. That already gives you the strongest impression that if the end does not flow back to the beginning, it means the end is likely to be denser down the beginning. That is why there was precipitation. So in that case, what the human personality is able to observe or to perceive is that of densification, or to use the more modern word, gravitation. These are the framework upon which all activities in nature rest, all activities in creation rest. It is the task of the human personality that is striving from its unconsciousness to become self-conscious, to become self-aware. And from that state, is able to complete that cycle in motion where it has set out as an unconscious spirit seed spark and has been conscious subsequently of the environment before it becomes self-conscious. In order to be able to help the human personality that have undertaken this journey to become self-conscious. The work which is being discussed right now, which work is in the light of truth, which work explains what light is and explains what truth is. This work in the light of truth, the Grail Message, lays bare all that the human personality needs to know if it has the firm, uncompromising attitude to acquire the knowledge through self-exertion. In that case, it is able to free itself from any guilt because it has the tool, it has the knowledge on how it needs to proceed, and it cannot be distracted because it has an uncompromising attitude towards that which is of truth and of light, and it should not be distracted towards achieving that goal, which goal lies within the spirit of man, which goal has been set in there by creation, which goal is an intrinsic part of the task which the human personality needs to accomplish, which brings it joy, or it brings it happiness once it has accomplished this task. Therefore, the work is there. For those who dare, let them examine the work for themselves.
Thanks very much, Gregory, for this, how can I say, comprehensive explanation or understanding of the natural laws, and not only those laws, how they operate, and the consequences of those, being uncompromising or being flexible, you could say, in your approach in regard to these natural laws. What you pointed to is the laws themselves are completely uncompromising. And in that sense, it doesn't sound like something like a bad. The laws are, say, harmful or bad in any way. They're just uncompromising in terms of, you could say, following their principles. About motion, you give example of the law of motion there and how it can act. Something can move, come back, how can I say, start a journey and return to that same point, or it can deviate and go some other point. So, like two alternatives there. And then through that, there are certain consequences of it. So that's what that's how they work, and you can see that there's no injustice in that, it's like a system, and which again we say it applies universally in all creation, earth, and beyond the earth, outside of the earth too. So that's something that, as you pointed to, Gregory, you can appreciate or recognize by reading the Grail Message in the Light of Truth by Abdushin. And I'll just say this at this moment: if you want to know more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, Grail, message, message.com. And you're listening to Bless Radio. It's the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. And the aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Abdushin. And our show, every show we have a topic for discussion. The topic tonight is be flexible or uncompromising. Be flexible or uncompromising. If you wish to put forward any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way you can contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1.com. And there, if you scroll down on the homepage, you'll see a box called Bless Chat. You can type in any questions or comments in there. And I've mentioned already, we are broadcasting on Bless Radio 1, the number 1.com. You can also listen to us on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box, Bless Radio 1, again the number 1 there, space, live stream. That's for our live show, which is on Tuesday evenings, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. You can also listen to the recording of this show the next day on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box, Bless Radio 1, the number 1 again there, space, Grail Message. And then the topic of the show is tonight, be flexible or uncompromising. And of course, you can listen to the recording of our previous shows also on YouTube. Thirdly, we are broadcasting on Zeno, that's ZENO.FM / Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1 again. Now, Gregory, let's look at some scenarios, as we say. Life is full of different experiences, and sometimes there's where you win sometimes, and other times you don't, or lose, as they say. And then you think that from that you think, oh, life has to go. There has to go through life. You have to give and take, which you could think of as compromising or being flexible. Right. Okay, that one is not being uncompromising. So that is being flexible and compromising. Now, so now, Gregory, I know as usual we have to look at the context. What is it that we are compromising or being flexible about? Now, if you look in, especially, let's say, in this world of politics, where it seems that people have supposed to be following a certain principles, and then let's say they do that in 70% of cases, and then in 30% of their cases, they seem to either put the principle to the side. That's what it appears. Or they even go silent. So I was thinking of, as you know, well, people in UK know we are having an election, general election, this coming week. Actually, it's on Thursday, and the political parties are, giving their manifestos and policies. But then, Gregory, there's some difficult issues to be the government is going to face in the coming years. And for example, well, let's say not all the parties are not the same, obviously, and having the same policy, obviously not. But then what I'm really saying, Gregory, some places people are keeping, the politicians are being quiet about certain aspects of these policies. They don't want to, let's say, put fear in the public or not declare their hand even, because that might make them unpopular. And then they wouldn't win the election, or not get what they're expecting, what they want to get. So this people can say they're compromising, not standing up for what they're really going to do, So the example I want to give, Gregory, is that there's an expectation that the taxes will have to rise not immediately, but in a few years' time, maybe year number 3, after, first 2 years it doesn't rise, but after year 3 or 4, they need to rise. But nobody wants to say, or some of the parties don't want to declare that that might be happening, or don't want to talk about it. As I said, they're keeping quiet. So what my question on that is, yeah, okay. What I want to ask about that? Yeah, there are two aspects on that, Gregory. There's a fear there, and then there's the public, the fear of the political parties and the reaction of the public, how they will say. So, Gregory, my question really on this is, should people talk straight, the politicians, on what is in the future, likely potential future? Of course, you cannot be sure exactly, potential future, when there are difficult issues potentially coming in the future. Should they be straight about it, or should they keep quiet and I don't know what they, and just try to sort of not mention it?
Well, to answer your question, first is the need to clarify some expressions that you have used. One of the expressions is that of give and take. That expression must be understood intuitively. For, strictly speaking, it is what the human personality has received and has made use of that is able to give. One is unable to give that which one lacks. And that to receive and then to give is part of emotion which resonates with the laws of creation through which one came into existence, be it in our deeds, in our thoughts, or in our intuitions. So that is perfectly right. The second part is that of politics. To be able to comment on politics, one must understand the framework of politics. Which framework one, to be humble, has no knowledge of. For the simplest observation is that whatever you say is not what you mean. What you mean is not what you say. Therefore, ask yourself, on what platitude can one handle such? The laws which should apply now turn out to be that these scenarios, in quotes, of politics, these scenarios turn out to be so inconsistent with themselves and inconsistent with the laws of nature. How one needs to respond to it from a spiritual standpoint, which spiritual standpoint is the framework of our discussion, is impossible. Is impossible to grasp. For it's like a forked tongue. You say what you do not mean, and you mean what you do not say. Such are not helpful to the individual. Therefore, within the movement in creation, they should be swept to one side. And therefore, one is unable to advise anyone with the decisions made in politics. For those who are bold enough to be able to picture something which is consistent in whatever they say, they may hold on to it, but that doesn't mean it is realizable. So maybe such questions are best directed at the politicians themselves, because from the standpoint of the laws of creation or the laws of nature, it is basically not understandable how they wish to proceed.
Thanks very much, Gregory, for really giving a clear picture of this, again, scenarios and in this sort of muddle that people bring in lives, you know. So you have got really very good clarity there. Again, looking from the laws of nature's context rather than human, you could say, messed up context. So thank you for that. Now, I'm thinking, Gregory, I want to sort of look at a possible contradiction in, you know, what we see in nature, just to understand if it's, maybe it is contradiction or maybe it's not a contradiction, but let's have a look. Okay, so what you have mentioned there, Gregory, are these laws of nature, which are really uncompromising or inflexible, you can say. Things have to, you know, laws of motion, you have described it, you know, it only works in this one way, or maybe one way is not the best way to put it, but it just works in an ordered way, and there's no break of that order. The order cannot be broken. You know, it works. That is the way it is. Okay. So what I want to look at now, Gregory, is that. So it sounds from there if you just look at it from the outside, that this nature is inflexible and uncompromising. Okay. However, Gregory, when you look at, let's say, nature progression and so on, and you see this evolution, where I don't want to go into scientific thinking of where the survival of the fittest, but it definitely you see different species having to not just different all species have to adapt to the situation of the world they exist in, and that's how we know, for example, dinosaurs became extinct at one point, and they were sort of dominant at one time, and so on. And other species we are also knowing they're nearly extinct as well, partly you could say due to the man's interventions and so on. And then other nature, even plants and so on, are adapting to sort of, I won't say overcome, but to just to make sure, making changes within themselves, if I can't think of the right word for it, but and they are able to continue to exist. That's the point I'm saying. So that shows that there are some changes going on in nature. For some, different species continue, other species don't, and so on. So, and yet it appeared when we started that there is just this natural law and there's nothing else. It has to be only this way. So, is that some contradiction going on there, Gregory? I know it sounds a bit weird the way I say it, but there seems to be apparent contradiction that nature does change over time, although we are saying the laws do not change at all. Natural laws do not change. So can you reconcile that or make sense of this?
One may differentiate between the contents in nature and the laws of nature, which laws ensure that these contents are categorized in accordance with their motions. Those motions which are much faster, closer to their source, those ones have a stronger impact on the species where they operate. And as things go downwards, in which there is gravitation coming in, one finds that it is these same laws, but they manifest differently in the lower species, which lower species only came into existence because the motion on the downward side is slower than that which is above it. And in the movement or the motion of that which is higher, the lower species could not even come into existence. You also talked about the survival of the fittest. That basically is referred to or should be considered with respect to human personalities. For the survival of the fittest, when discussed, you don't apply it to stones. Basically, one considers the biological systems. Of course, it is assumed that the animals are superior to the plants. The animals are there, the plants are there. The plants came first before the instrument of the animals then came. The animals are supposed to be, in quotes, smarter, or they fit more easily into the environment, but they have not decimated the plants. The plants are still there. And they would not try to, because every animal, deep within instinctively, knows that it depends on the plants. So it will not wipe out the plants. If it tries to, then it knows that before long, that it needs for sustenance will vanish, and he or she will vanish in the plants. The same thing with man. So that expression, survival of the fittest, strictly speaking, when looked upon from a narrow path, from a very dense intellectual way, does not give the intuitive picture. The survival of the fittest may only be considered when it is applied, or in the scenario where it is applied to the human personality, where the human personality, those talents that lie buried within it, the human personality, the human spirit, allows them to come to fruition such that it's able to apply them in that case of one for all and all for one, and will continue to develop these talents to such an extent such that it's able to fit in within the scheme in nature, within the scheme in creation, that is, it is fitting in. Only those who spiritually strive to open themselves through experiences, only those are able to perceive of the blessings that stream out from on high, and in their recognition, make use of these blessings, not only for themselves, but also mediate it to others. That is survival of the fittest. For the fittest then understands it is one for all and all for one. The attitude now becomes that of humility. It becomes that of compassion. It is vigilant. It is alert. It is courageous. It becomes selfless. It carries out heroic deeds. It is diligent. It is modest. It is graceful. It's truthful. And it is faithful and steadfast. That is the one who fits in. It is that will survive. Therefore, that expression which has been used in a very narrow fashion. That's, or those who collected all this information only did those collation in a very narrow fashion, and they have interpreted it in the wrong in a wrong way. And therefore that cannot be right. So only he or she who strives to understand creation through its activities can fit into it. And in understanding it lies humility, lies compassion. For it then senses the challenges others go through, and it is its task to bring all together in the one for all and all for one. All other interpretations lead nowhere.
Thanks very much, Gregory, again for this detailed picture you're giving us. What you're showing is the principles are uncompromisables. The laws of nature are inflexible in this, in their working, and you either work with them. It's like with the river. You go in flow with the river, or you fight against the river, flow of the river, and then once you are fighting against that river, you know the result of this, and you can't win. So, and again, the principle of all for one and one for all. So you can't be you wishing you have your wish and ignoring others' wishes, or other looking at things around you. You can't just have what you think, what you want, let's say, or by itself. Okay. Now, just thinking. Gregory, again, okay, let's look at children now. I'm trying to change a little bit the direction, Gregory. It's sort of similar to what you're saying. You have to teach the children, you have to set rules for children, to discipline them so they grow and learn, that there's a particular way you have to be in behavior, in doing your work, and so on. And if you do not apply these rules, you could say strictly, then they will not respect the rules, or they will disobey them. So there, it sounds like you have to be uncompromising in applying the rules to the children. However, of course, you have to be just as well, and not, if they don't follow the rules, you still must give them like chances to make mistakes, you can say, and try to learn from them. Okay, so it seems very, in that scenario, Gregory, it's clear to see how we have to be and behave. We say inflexible. I mean, and then outwardly, it may look that you're not showing kindness, but actually you're preparing them for their future. So that is because if they don't learn that, they will have trouble in the future. Now, with the human beings, adults, let's say, now, Gregory, some people, let's say, try to break the rules. Even that is said the rules are there to be broken. So some people have this sort of thinking. Now, I'm wondering why. Let's say most of those children have been brought up to know these rules, pretty much, and only few are not. Or just don't, or they don't decide not to follow for some reason. So that means as adults, most people would also follow. They should have learned to apply these rules and to follow them. But it seems, Gregory, sometimes people still want to break them, And I'm just trying to think of this. But to understand why some people do not learn or do break them as they grow up. Yes, I'm trying to think of a proper question to ask you on this. So, Gregory, okay, let me say it like this, Gregory. So, say you're doing a business, and to get ahead, as they say, you might, it might be that you need to cut costs to sort of, in quote, survive and to continue, and then you might cut, break some rules, let's say, for this, to do that. And not everybody will do that, obviously, and some will do that. So, and then they might even get away with this by doing that, Gregory. So, my question there, Gregory, is if the human rules are not enforced, fully, then do these human beings, do they escape? Because they escape the earthly justice, you can say. So do they get their reward somehow through nature or some other way? Because sometimes you think people have escaped their. Some people are getting away with, breaking rules and so on, and they're not going to be caught, and even they will die and get away with it, you can say. So, is there a way, Gregory, the system that that they will have repay for that?
Sorry, there's so much background noise.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Okay, I don't know where this background noise is coming from. Let me repeat the question in a quick way, Gregory. So you can hear me okay now?
I can hear you, but the buzz is still ongoing. Maybe you can, if you mute yourself, maybe it will stop.
Okay, but then you won't hear me. That's the problem.
But I understand the question.
Okay, I will put myself on mute now. Okay, then.
Well, thanks. When rules are talked about and rules are made for children, the key thing will be, what do so-called parents or institutions hope to be the outcome? Children, in their fledgling state, are searching not only in their thoughts or in deeds, but also in their intuitions, to understand how they themselves need to adjust such that their activities will be beneficial, not only to themselves, but also to their friends and to the wider society. If along the line you have someone who plays music, who composes music and plays an instrument, and a child is around and is enraptured by the tune that is played, such a child will want to emulate. One will wish to emulate the person who did such. And without applying any rules, the child will intuitively, in thoughts and also in deeds, adjust, because it perceives that that person, that personality, through his his or her activities brings opportunities, and in the fulfillment of these opportunities, joys or happiness spring up from the hearts of many who have experienced it. The child will want to adjust itself because it knows it's good. When rules which many parents or guardians or teachers, when they put these things in place, in which they are unable to enforce because through their own personal activities they break these rules, then doubts arise within the maturing soul or the fledgling soul of the child. It has doubts. If, however, a good example is shown to the child again and again, not only in words, but also in deed, then that child will quickly perceive the opportunities which are made available and will wish to make use of these opportunities so that happiness will well up within it. Actually, that is the only way. Whatever rules are then set in achieving such goals, the child will easily adopt it because it senses only happiness will come out of this. It will wish to learn to play the instrument well. It will even put restrictions on itself. It will wish to work for longer because it senses happiness will accrue from this when I fulfill this. After all, it has experienced it somewhere else. So it doesn't need to be restricted. It will restrict itself. Therefore, the failure that has manifested, strictly speaking, is a failure of those who call themselves the leaders, all the elders, all the parents, or whatever they care to call themselves, because they have not set any examples which will touch the inner core of the human personality and wish that the fledgling soul will wish to emulate in one way or the other to bring joy to others, just as it, the fledgling child, has received joy through the activities of others. That has been lacking. It happens in life. It happens in the so-called religion, where parents quote expressions, which expressions they do not have the slightest understanding. And that being the case, you find that children, having experienced it again and again, deep within them, we want to deviate to try other sources. But had the parents or the guidance, or whatever one may care to call them. Show them some examples which fills their heart. They themselves will copy. Have they shown them examples of vigilance, of alertness, of compassion, of humility, of wisdom, of skill, of heroism, of any of these virtues? You will find the younger one who are looking or searching vigorously for guidance will easily follow, because they can already sense this, they wish to internalize it. But that has been lacking. So most of the things which have been set out, they have been set forth on a wrong foundation, where the guidance, or whatever they care to call themselves, force many to take it. And the many can already see through and see the holes and see the lack of understanding of the challenges which these young ones are going through. So many of the principles which have been put forward from the outset are counterproductive. They are wrong. There is the need to go back to the basics and show by example. Go out and see in the so-called sports world a parent who is a keen footballer who works very hard, and the child can see that that child will also want to kick the ball, will also want to dedicate itself to work very hard. A parent who shows example of loyalty, of humility, even in his or her music, of course the child will want to, because it will look upon the guidance, whether that guide is the parent or not. It will already wish to be like them through hard work. So unless things are looked at from a different perspective, it's very sad the way things are going, and will continue to be sad, because in their activities, it is found that the reciprocal actions will definitely press down that personality who initiated it, since such activities are not uplifting.
Thanks very much, Gregory, for this, you could say, inspiring, really, lesson to how we should be living, and the attitude we must have in, let's say, bringing up children and the children learning. It's like everything is, are you going to say the word positive, but it's something that you want to be this way, live within the laws and not try to break the laws or rules, however you want to say it. I was going to say to the listeners very briefly, I would say you're listening to Bless Radio, and this is the Spiritual Discussion Program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Apushin. And if you do wish to know more about the Grail Message, or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, then you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic for our discussion tonight is be flexible or uncompromising. Be flexible or uncompromising. If you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And thirdly, you can contact us, or secondly, really, you can contact us on our website where we are broadcasting. That is Bless Radio 1. That's Bless Radio 1, the number 1.com. If you scroll down, you'll see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments as well. And we are broadcasting on Bless Radio 1, the number 1.com. You can also listen to us on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, again the number 1, space live stream. That's for the live show, which is on Tuesday evenings, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. And you can listen to the recording of this show also on YouTube. Now go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, the number 1 again, space Grail Message, space the topic of the show, which is tonight, be flexible or uncompromising. This is the next day you can listen to this recording. And of course, you can do the recording of our other previous shows also on YouTube. Thirdly, we are broadcasting on Zeno, that's ZENO.FM/Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1 again. Now, Gregory, talking about rules and laws, you know, in religions, they have these rules and regulations, and then we have these earthly rules and regulations, laws of the countries, and sometimes people might think there's a conflict between them, and then they need to wonder which one do they follow. Well, we have a famous, let's say, I will read it out actually, of Jesus talking about paying taxes to Caesar. This is in Luke chapter 20, verse 20 to 26. And it says, keeping a close watch on him, they sent spies who pretended to be sincere. They hoped to catch Jesus in something he said, so that they might hand him over to the power and authority of the governor. So the spies questioned him. Teacher, we know that you speak and teach what is right, and that you do not show partiality, but teach the way of God in accordance with the truth. Is it right for us to pay taxes to Caesar or not? He saw through their duplicity and said to them, show me a denarius. Whose image and inscription are on it? Caesar's, they replied. He said to them, then give back to Caesar what is Caesar's, and to God what is God's. They were unable to trap him in what he said there in public, and astonished by his answer, they became silent. So, Gregory, we see that this type of story many times in the Bible, with these Jewish priests or their servants trying to trap Jesus, catch him out on something. and every time they seem to fail, they failed. What I want to ask on it, Gregory, so when you, there may be situations where spiritual principles and earthly rules and laws may be in conflict. And I'm not able to think of something directly now. So, Jesus gave that answer there. What would we do? I think that's what they were trying to find, something that, I don't know what they were thinking of, but that Caesar has done wrong, but that they should not follow Caesar, but or pay the taxes of Caesar. But I'm thinking, because that's almost political, what they were trying to do there. But that's like you disagree with something. But I'm thinking more about, say, some moral point which your teaching tells you that's how you're supposed to be, and somehow the earthly rules make it hard to follow. And I'm sorry, I can't think of example there. So if you have any such conflict, Gregory, how would you sort of handle it? So let's say give an example of some old times, maybe in communist countries where they did not allow you to talk about God and were allowed to worship in public or anything like that, and you're supposed to worship. So how could, I'm just giving that as one example. I'm sure there are many more than this. How would you act in such a situation? Because if you sort of say you want to do it, but they don't let you do it.
First, there's the need to consider the initial question. The scenario which you mentioned before the final, because there are so many questions bundled into one. The first one, where Christ asked them to give unto Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and to the Lord Almighty what belongs to the Lord Almighty, has the general principle that through the taxes which Caesar collects, is able to make arrangement for security, for roads, and to ensure that, as at that time, water can be piped from distances to a central place where they will have water in the desert condition. That in itself is one for all and all for one. Basically, they must have known this, but as usual, they wanted to find faults so that they will report to the authorities and say, here, he said we shouldn't do this. What generally it means is, here on earth, we have that the human personality, which personalities of spirit, and also that spirit which makes use of the physical body to experience. It means the need is there to provide to the physical body, which has arisen from nature, those things that it requires in order to function effectively. At the same time, to ensure that that which is of the Almighty, which is of one's intuition, one is able to keep it awake through activities so as to be able to sense the blessings and mediate it to the earthly. That is the task of man, to sense of these blessings and mediate these blessings to the earthly through the opportunities and examples. And in that particular sense, the physical body is needed. Therefore, the physical body and through the thoughts and activities and actions, if it resonates with one's intuition, which intuition has arisen from out of deep within the spirit, then harmony prevails and everything becomes helpful. That was a deeper meaning that Christ was referring to. The second part you mentioned is that of the so-called communist countries. Many people consider that because there are, in quotes, pastors or whatever they care to call themselves, that they talk about their knowledge, which knowledge has to deal with religion, and therefore they serve the Almighty. That is very, very far from it. Only through one's intuition, in the way one comports oneself, in the one for all and all for one, in the respect that one shows to others, in the cultivation of the talents, all the virtues which the human personality holds, only in that cultivation can one serve the Almighty. Not basically through discussions of it, without letting one's inner vibrations, one's inner sensing come into it. So, as you still have today, there are so many religious areas, but the knowledge of the Almighty, they lack. And you cannot give someone what really you yourself do not have. Simple example, if you don't have the musical talent to compose music and play it, which becomes pleasurable to many who will then enjoy it, how can you then mediate that? Many talk so much about the Almighty, but do they understand the laws which govern the human personality, how he or she needs to relate to the Almighty? Christ incarnated to show man the path, to show what love is, because he himself, a personification of divine love, showed that through his activities. The challenges were there, but he fulfilled. Therefore, one should not hold too tight on the words which many hold without examining them carefully, without examining them to find out where they lead. Only he or she who is alive in spirit is able to examine rigorously. And he or she who seeks vigorously, who seeks spiritual things vigorously, must find. That is a promise which is always fulfilled.
Thanks again, Gregory, very much for these answers you've given. Dear listeners, we've come to the end of the show tonight on the topic of be flexible or uncompromising. Hope you've enjoyed the discussion. I want to now end with a reading from the Grail Message, which is the foreword, and is titled For Your Guidance. The bandage falls, and belief becomes conviction. Liberation and redemption lie only in conviction. I'm addressing earnest seekers only. They must be able and willing to examine this matter objectively. Religious fanatics and irresponsible enthusiasts may hold aloof, for they are detrimental to the truth. As for the malevolent and prejudiced, they shall find their sentence in the very words. The message will strike only those who still carry within them a spark of truth and the yearning to be true human beings. To all such it will become the shining light and staff. It will lead them unswervingly out of all the chaos of the present-day confusion. The following word does not bring a new religion, but is intended as the torch to help all serious listeners or readers find the right path, which leads them to the longed-for height. Only he who bestirs himself can advance spiritually. The fool who uses extraneous aids for this, in the form of ready-made opinions of others, only walks his path as if on crutches, while ignoring his own healthy limbs. But the moment he boldly uses all the abilities which lie dormant within him, awaiting his call to help in his ascent, he is employing the talent entrusted to him in accordance with his Creator's will, and will easily overcome all obstacles that seek to divert him. Therefore awake. Genuine faith lies only in conviction, and conviction comes solely through an inflexible weighing and examining. See that you are truly alive in the wonderful creation of your God. Uprushin. Dear listeners, that is, as I said, from the foreword of the Grail Message. If you wish to want more information about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, message.com. Gregory, is there anything you'd like to say to the listeners to say goodbye?
Wishing listeners a beautiful week.
Thank you. Same from me, listeners. Have a beautiful week. We'll be back as usual next Tuesday with another topic, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m.